have a motion to admit. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. The tellers for the evening tonight are counting to my right, counting that section will be James Muldoon, counting the center section will be Marcy Bailey, and counting the front and to my left will be Tricia Colella. All voters who want their votes counted must be wearing a yellow ribbon, and it must be visible. All visitors will be wearing a black ribbon and should be seated to my right. Individuals who are members of town boards and committees who are not registered voters may sit with their boards and committees in the first few rows of the center section. A couple of procedures for tonight. I see some faces that are maybe new to the process. In your warrant, inside the front cover, are the rules of the meeting. We conduct the meeting based on Robert's Rules of Order. The articles will be considered in their order, although this evening, because we're continuing the annual town meeting, we're going to start with Article 24, move on through Article 29, then we'll take Article 15, and then we'll take Article 16. The order of Article 15 and 16 was set at the last session of town meeting. If you'd like to be recognized to speak regarding an article, please go to the microphone in the aisle or to the front. Wait to be recognized, state your name and address for the record, and then you may have 5 minutes. Obviously, you must stay on topic, speak to the article that we're currently debating, and obviously no personal attacks. At this time, I'd like to just take one moment and hope you'll all join me in a round of applause for a group of people who maybe don't get the same notoriety as the elected officials on the Board of Selectmen or the school committee, but who put in countless hours in dedication to preparing the town budget, and that is the Finance Committee, right down here in front of me. Thank you. And also, if anyone is interested in serving on Finance Committee, please see Mike Mastacusa, Abe Lincoln down front here, or you can speak with me after the conclusion of town meeting. With that, we're going to begin with the first article, although the Board of Selectmen and the school committee have asked if we could take a leave of the meeting for the purposes of a presentation of the budget. So we would take a 35-minute leave of the meeting for the purposes of presentation of the budget. A leave of the meeting needs to be voted on. Any discussion on that? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. Mr. Messeri. Excuse me, Mr. Messeri, before you begin. Does everyone have the green handout that was available when you checked in? If you do not, raise your hand, and the young ladies down the back of the room will bring one to you. Mr. Messeri, if you want to begin just with your presentation, and then we'll take the motion after the presentation.
Okay.
So again, raise your hand if you need the green handout.
Tonight's presentation is to give everyone here in the hall an opportunity to get a feel for what the Board of Selectmen, the Finance Committee, and the School Committee has been wrestling with, associated with coming up with a budget, given the current financial situation. I'm going to go through this as a summary. I'll take questions that I gather as part of our motion when we get to that point. So, what are we here? What are we voting on tonight? We're only voting the budget for fiscal 2008. This is coming year, July 1st, 2007. And whether a balanced or non-override, a balanced budget, which is non-override, and level services override will be approved. So we're going to be looking at two columns, and on your green sheet, you'll see those two columns, and that's what we'll be focusing on. Budgets for second and third year of any potential three-year override will be voted at April town meetings in 2008 and 2009. We mention this because we have been talking about putting onto the ballot a one-year override and a three-year override as a choice. And I'm going to provide you some information tonight about what the second and third year looks like so you can make an informed decision about the override requested and the budget, the override budget for 2008. Second part of any override vote will be at the polls on June 5th. In other words, if town meeting votes the override column in tonight's Article 24, we will be scheduling, the board will schedule a special election on June 5th, and we will have two override questions on that, and I'll talk to you a little later about that. So these are the questions I'm going to try to answer as part of this presentation. What are our budget options? What cuts are required for a balanced budget? Why do we have a revenue shortfall? What does the level services budget provide for? What will the override budget on tonight's warrant cost me? What other budget options have been considered? What will a three-year plan cost me? And how will the three-year plan be implemented? So our budget options, balanced budget. What that means is that our expenditures will match what our revenue forecast is for this coming year. This budget, based on the analysis that's been done over the past several months, requires cuts in general government and school services and personnel. The level services budget, which is a budget designed to continue the level of services that we currently enjoy, and that includes additions in the school department to cover the additional enrollment that is projected in the middle and high schools next year. So the level services budget will restore cuts in general government and school services and personnel, which would be impacted if we only have a balanced budget approved this evening. And it increases general government, HR, and IT hours. Now, HR is human resources, and IT is our management of our technology by one full-time employee, meaning that half of that those hours are going to HR, currently a half-time position, and half will be going to adding additional IT support. And in the area of the schools, 8 teachers will be added to cover increases in enrollment in special education. I'm sure the school department is going to present more detail on that a little later on in this presentation. Budget options continue. The 3-year plan, which we're not voting tonight, but this is informational for everybody, provides for the same services as the level service budget and the 1-year override. Years 2 and 3 allow for additional personnel to meet fire safety and ALS needs, plus teachers to meet growing enrollment in the middle school and high school. It's a long-term plan that avoids crisis management and provides budget that leadership and taxpayers can count on. Let's look at the balanced budget. Balanced budget, our estimated revenues for 2008 are $44,789,000 roughly, and that includes the state aid and the additional state aid that the governor's budget and the legislature have basically voted on. So the balanced budget is broken into, if you look at the key elements of our budgeting, the first thing that we do is we look at our fixed costs. And the fixed costs are those obligations that we have that are tied to employee benefits, health insurance, retirement, and a number of other things, including our debt. I'm not talking about exempt debt, not override debt, but our debt for borrowing that we've done for various things like police cars and other things over the years at each town meeting. In the municipal budget side, the $11,491,618 is to fund the municipal side of the budget. That's salaries and expenses associated with the various departments at Town Hall. And on the school side, the $20,701,242 is to fund the school budget. And the $44,789,026 is less enterprise funds. Those are self-funded departments like our water department. Balanced budget. The general government service cuts in a balanced budget. And the balanced budget deficit is $205,000. And actually it's $305,000 because we moved an additional $100,000 to the school budget. But what we'll be eliminating is a floater. We'll be deferring $60,000 of maintenance to town buildings. We'll reduce our snow and ice budget by $30,000. Reduce police salary overtime by $15,800. Eliminate radios for the fire department, which is $6,000. Those are replacement radios, by the way. Defer purchase of one police cruiser, which is $39,300. And others spread amongst the departments to a tune of $44,600 rather. And our level one additional $100,000 we're transferred over to the school budget. We've taken a 0.86% cut across the board, and that mostly impacts the larger budgets, which are police, fire, and public works. In a balanced budget, the school services cuts will eliminate 10 teaching positions, will require early release of elementary and middle school students every Wednesday, reduce elementary and middle school art, and music, technology, physical education, library, and cultures program, reduces high school electives, eliminates elementary and middle school band and chorus, reduces department heads, reduces technology support, eliminates the mentor program, reduces the instructional budget by 5%, and reduces the purchase of new textbooks. So the question is, and I'm sure all of you are asking, why do we have a revenue shortfall and the need for an override? First of all, fixed costs are increasing at a rate exceeding Proposition 2.5. State aid is insufficient and unpredictable to fill the gaps between cost and revenue, and our school enrollment is increasing. Here's an example of, and this is in the fixed cost area of what we faced. We go back to our fiscal year 2004 and just look at health insurance. Our cost to the town for employee health insurance was $2,670,251. And here we are, fiscal 2008, and we need $4,124,880 to fund the same level of health insurance that we had in 2004, a total of 55% increase. And similarly, with pensions and retirements, we face the same thing. And this is the significant area that is preventing us to have additional revenue from our normal 2.5 growth in state aid and fees to fund both the town and the school portions of their operating budgets. If you look at our revenue sources for 2008 on a percentage basis, just to give you some idea of where the money comes from, 67% is tax revenue, 6% is exempt tax. Those are the overrides that we voted to fund projects, the Smith property, the police renovation in the Batchelder School, and recently some modulars for the middle school. Fees, 10% of our money come from fees. This is your motor excise tax and fees that developers pay for inspectional services and so on and so forth. 3% is lottery, and this is the state share coming to the town. And then Chapter 70, which is the school aid, 12% of the total dollars that we have for revenue sources. If we look at how those revenues are used, you can see very quickly that fixed cost is 28